Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Raise your hand if you don't love a good baked potato. Straight from Idaho.
With a little Greek yogurt on top?
Sour cream, cheese, bacon. Oh, Chobani, I get what you're going. That was funny. That was funny.
Okay, so I wanted to bring you this story a couple months ago when I first found out that some refugees, some migrant children had raped a little girl and in Twin Falls, Idaho. And as I began clicking on links, I began to see that this really twisted story unraveled. That the Obama-Clinton era administration has colluded with this man who has started a Chobani
He's not
giant...
just a man, though. He is a Turkish Muslim.
I was going to get to that, but go ahead.
No, that's it. Keep going.
Okay, started this giant corporation and this yogurt thing, and he's bringing in all kinds of refugees into this small Idaho town in Twin Falls, getting hundreds of refugees every year.
I think the refugees just like potatoes.
I think they just, I don't know. Just, yeah. So anyways, there's a lot of crazy things going on here. And so Alex Jones has been reporting on this, and the Chobani CEO, the guy who started it, Hamdi Ulukaya, he is now suing Alex Jones for reporting on the truth. And it would have been anything different than I would have reported, reading articles and making these connections between these refugees being brought into Twin Falls,
right,
and then crime, which is no different than what Donald Trump has said. There's some bad hombres.
Right.
The Hamdi guy, he has advocated for open borders. He has advocated for not screening the refugees, just letting them come in unvetted. Where, you know, in some of these countries the Taliban writes you off and says, well, here's your certificate, right?
Exactly.
What really stuck out to me is what Michelle wanted to get to, that threw up the most giant red flag, was the fact that Hamdi is actually on the Federal Reserve in New York. He is an executive. He is, this is from Bloomberg, this is his personal information.
Why is a Turkish Muslim on the board of the Federal
Reserve Bank in New York? And I just, it boggles my mind that he's helped making this policy. There's this huge shift. There's this huge fight, which we're going to win, against this corporate elitist globalist program, which, you know, you have the Hawaii judge who says that Trump's refugee ban is illegal, and you've got people like Hamdi speaking out against it, holding like rallies with his refugee dudes. Well, then what gets lost in the middle or at the end are the people living in these communities who are standing up saying they've had
enough.
They've had these city council meetings when they're like, I don't want to walk down the street with somebody in a full-on burqa. That is not American.
Right.
From head to toe.
Yeah.
This is not American values at all whatsoever, and Sharia law and things like that. If you're going to come here, you assimilate, and we don't wear burqas here.
Right.
Okay? The burqa is a symbol of oppression, and I'm talking about the full-on thing. You want to wear a scarf on your head, you wear a scarf on your head.
Right.
But I want to get to this story, and it's really, really sad. The story that really kind of started it all. There's a 5-year-old girl who was molested, you could say, and raped, but it's kind of hard to be raped by the children. And it was filmed by a teenager who disgustingly, after this whole thing was over and a grandma walked in to stop it, handed the phone to the child's father, the girl's father, and said, I didn't do anything wrong, here's my phone, because he recorded it. No. Right? So I'm going to, the viewer discretion advised, I'm going to, not show it, but I'm going to read to you what the father said, okay?
Yes.
All right, so the father revealed that the parents of the refugee children asked him not to call the police. Okay.
When he first learned of the attack.
And so allegations. These boys have since pleaded guilty, by the way, but there's a huge backstory to it where the whole town was fighting to get this story out, but the mayor even was questioning whether it happened. Everybody was keeping it under wraps. The boys were still in school. Even these it's not just an allegation; it's on tape. You know what I mean? The grandma walked in.
I don't know how you can call it an allegation when it's on tape, but they are calling it an allegation. It's a fact.
Right. Okay. So there was 3 boys involved, and I want to give you what the father had to say. I finally got covered, and I ran across the street from my work to my home, and there was just a whole bunch of people outside my apartment from all families, and I just walked into the apartment, and they had a phone sitting there, and they said, yeah, they recorded this, you know, you need to look at this real quick. And I pushed play, and I watched like 30 seconds. You watched 30 seconds of what? I watched 30 seconds of a recording that was recorded by the refugee boys of what they, so you've seen the video. Yes. Wow. I hadn't heard that. I hadn't seen it. I just can't. That's the victim's mother. The father says, with her anxiety and with her condition, I did not allow her to see that. I did not watch the whole thing. Like I said, I watched about 30 seconds of it. There was a lot more on there that I did not see. But what I did see is horrific for a father to watch for that thing. And so after I watched all that, I came outside trying to keep my composure because that whole family was still outside my apartment, you know, and they were trying to stop us from calling the police and pleading with us. The refugee family was trying to stop you from calling the police? Yes. They were pleading with us, saying everything was okay. They did nothing wrong. You know, no police, because they did not speak. They speak Arabic, so they had very few words that they can actually, and had they seen the video? No. The father says, when I watched what I watched, the older brother of the boy that filmed it, or one of the brothers to the boys, he came in behind me and watched what I watched as well. So how old is he? Is he an adult? No, he looks to be in his late teens. Okay. But the mother hasn't seen it. And he says, yeah, nobody else had seen it. From the victim's mother point of view, when they brought the video, the boy that did do the recording, he came to her with this saying, you know, he did nothing wrong. Oh, hey, I filmed it. Here you go, okay? So he watched 30 seconds, and he says, the 30 seconds, and this is going to be graphic, saw them in the laundry room. They pulled my daughter around, pushed her up against the wall, pulled her pants off. He dropped his pants. He was trying to get at her from behind, you know, but he's a little boy, so really couldn't do anything. His daughter was trying to fight. She finally got away. She pulled her pants up. She ran around to the side of the corner. She ran into a washing machine and hunched down, shaking in fear. You can imagine a father watching this happen to his daughter while he danced around with his pants down,
laughing at her, pointing at her with all of the other boys.
You could hear them in the background doing the same thing, and that's all I watched because he said he couldn't watch anymore. Could you tell how long the clip was? It was like a couple of minutes. He said there's a lot more that happened, and I'm not going to read that part.
It was told to him by the prosecutor who did watch the video.
And they peed on her.
They urinated on her.
They peed on her.
In addition to
in her
several
mouth,
other
all over her
grotesque
bodies. And he also says that the older boy had removed his clothes and was getting ready to do something too, but the grandma walked in and stopped it all. Now, what's really horrible about this is a lot of other lawmakers had to get involved because they wanted to hush it up. This was a poor white family. This was in government housing, okay? And what we have here in America is, people don't really care.
Right.
People don't really care about poor kids. If this happened in a rich white neighborhood, everybody would be up in arms, right. All right? And so you've got this weird situation happening where that's a different one. You've got the Turkish Chobani owner has deep ties to the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton campaign. So you got these corresponding stories.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have this rape case in Twin Falls, and I couldn't find the interviews, but they had interviewed people in Twin Falls, and other rapes had happened. By
the refugee family.
Exactly, and there were some criminal actions, and some of these people were connected to the Chobani. So there is a corresponding intersection here. But this guy calling for these are basically kind of two different stories, and they're kind of connected. So Chobani, the director here, has ties to both Hillary and Bill Clinton, the Global Initiative, the Clinton campaign, Chairman John Podesta, and a host of other globalist corporate figures. Even after this was out in the open,
including Warren Buffett, surprise.
He calls for other corporations to bring in more refugees. And you're going to read two different narratives when you see Breitbart causing a smear campaign, but this is the truth. Whenever I see anybody connected to the Clinton Global Initiative,
it's a duh movement.
Giant corporations, elitists, this is a big deal. And obviously he's part of the Federal Reserve, so he's obviously wicked to the core. So The Chobani billionaire's many speeches and soliloquies on the issues of refugees, combined with his extensive political connections, may explain why establishment politicians, both Republican and Democrat, have swooned over him, positively giddy to form business government partnerships with him, which is a whole nother issue, is the fact that Greek yogurt produces this whey, and it's actually polluting the, getting into rivers and killing fish. But anyways, it's a whole other thing. Many people first heard about the Twin Falls refugee settlement program when a 5-year-old girl was raped. And then, more recently, a Muslim refugee molested a mentally retarded woman. What's very interesting about that story is this particular dude, after the Orlando shooting, they used him as a face in the news to say not all Muslims do bad things. And I actually have that story here.
How does that even happen?
Man arrested for sexually assaulting vulnerable adult. It's this guy here. She was, she's mentally disabled, and he called her into his house. But this particular accuser, the TV segment and corresponding written piece titled "We Do Not Agree with Those People Doing Bad Things" was an attempt to put a positive spin on the local Muslim community. The segment showed an on-air interview with now jailed Mohammed Hussein Ibrahim Eldaya and quoted him as saying, "These bad people, they do this stuff in the name of Islam, and Islam doesn't say it like that," he said. Now the picture of Islam is getting worse because I don't know. I hope these people are going to give up. So here's a guy they picked out to be their face in the news.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
And he rapes this thing. And now another little weird puzzle. And there's like all these little pieces. You guys can put it together in your own head. But the Mormon Boy Scout troop was being used to promote more refugees. They had the Mormon Boy Scouts
because what looks better than the Boy Scouts
come in front of the council and say we need more refugees as part of their Eagle Scout program, which is just weird to me on many levels. And then I wanted to share with you Nikki Haley here, who just really threw me for a loop. I gotta find this article here. I can't believe I'm having a hard time finding where my article is right there. Okay. So in this article on hundreds of Muslim refugees headed to Idaho, there's been thousands in recent days, but Nikki Haley has come out in favor of the resettlement plans, which hasn't helped Gowdy's effort to see it scale back. A promised resolution by the area's legislative delegation opposing the resettlement plans also fizzled after Haley issued a letter of support. So that really kind of threw me for another loop about Nikki Haley. Just another.
And we had brought to you guys several weeks ago a video on Nikki Haley where we were praising her, and she did say some very valid things. But however, we're kind of seeing the sheep's clothing come off of her,
right,
and see who she is really, which is she's kind of a wolf.
Right. Exactly. So this whole case, the Snopes came out because everybody was saying it was Syrian refugees. And so all the articles, instead of saying, well, they were from, I think, Iraq and a couple other Middle Eastern countries, they weren't from Syria. Instead of saying, yeah, this is really awful.
Right.
Instead of saying where they really were from, they just said, well, they're not from Syria. And
why
so
should that even matter?
The whole story is wrong. And the mom really had to... The mom really had to do some digging, and they might even sue at this point. And
it says that the victim, once a happy and social child, now frequently insists that she wants to be alone. She finds a small and safe space inside of a closet and stays in it alone for hours. Once a very chatty child, she has become very quiet. Even in the summer heat of Twin Falls, she now always wears 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of underwear. She talks constantly about those naughty boys and asks her mother repeatedly not to tell her father everything that happened because it will upset him.
And there's not much else I can say, but it's beyond
comprehension.
It's beyond comprehension, and I'm just really upset. I'm really upset about it. One more thing I want to show you is the public criticizes council for handling assault allegations. The whole town had to get up in arms, and a lot of people said some crazy things, and I kind of agree with them. They say that they can't can't assimilate. You had the 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and I believe a 14-year-old who were brought into custody, and some of the people said, The Nation of Islam has declared global jihad on us, Vicky Davis said, and Obama, this administration is bringing them in as fast as they possibly can. Now, you can imagine if it's in your town, it's going to really feel like it's crazy. They're on your head, yours. And then somebody said the Muslim influence is not just a religion, it's a theocracy. And then a councilman criticized back and said, "Well, you guys are just white supremacists." So there's a lot of heat going on in that tiny Twin Falls area. So it's keep your eyes open, see what's going on. I hope that Alex Jones comes out on top, because this stuff is happening and it has to get out there in the open, and you can't be sued for bringing this stuff to the forefront. I'm going to bring you Tucker.
Time for tonight's reality check. In news so strange it must be true, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been elected to a 4-year term on the United Nations Commission on, wait for it now, the status of women. Not the UN Commission on Oil or Sand or medieval legal systems, but the Commission on the Status of Women, which exists to promote gender equality around the world. Now, admittedly, both Egypt and Iran are already members of that commission, so obviously someone at the UN has a sense of irony. But the Saudis? Even as a joke, that one falls flat. Now, keep in mind that Saudi Arabia is a country in which every adult woman must have a male guardian, and that guardian's permission is required for females to travel, receive higher education, get married, even undergo surgery. Every woman must wear a hijab out in public, and in some parts of the country, women must cover everything but their eyes. Women are not allowed to drive cars. Their testimony in court is worth half of a man's testimony. They can even be forcibly married off as children if their fathers request it. So let's see. The country that as a matter of official policy treats women as less than human will now be lecturing the rest of us about feminism. So if you had to sum up the United Nations in a single perverse sentence, that would be it.
Well said,
It just boggles my mind. The world is crazy. The UN is a joke.
That's right.
It's worse than a joke. It's worse than a joke. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
I want to bring it back to the assimilation kind of thing. And I was looking at my phone because I was trying to find this email and I couldn't find it. So forgive me if I messed this up, but I got it close enough. Le Pen has an Egyptian either campaign manager or advisor or something like that. Gary, I think you sent this to me. I'm not sure. And I was watching the video earlier, and he was being interviewed as saying, listen, I am Egyptian. I came over here to France. I didn't speak French, okay? And I wanted to become part of the French culture. And that's what you do when you immigrate to another country. You become part of that culture. And what we're seeing here, unfortunately, I don't have a problem with anybody embracing their religion, but they're coming and they're just staying completely isolated and creating separate bubble communities within countries all over the world instead of just integrating into society as a normal immigrant would do. So that's the problem that I have with that.
Right. So this little girl, I hope she finds justice. I'm glad that everybody has talked.
And they have been prosecuted and they have pled guilty.
Yeah, I mean, with little boys, you know, what are you going to do?
It's almost like you want to, somehow the parents need to be able to be held culpable for this.
Exactly.
You know?
So.
All right, you guys, we're going to sign off here on that note. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring that bell for notifications and find us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We love you, God loves you, and God bless.
Was cold.